All right. So, we are waiting for the arrival of Super Deeks, who will be co-hosting again this week. He's doing 3 for 3 this week. And then we'll probably shake it up next week. Not sure what we're going to do next week, but I think Deeks wants a break. Anyway, we got Spider-Man back here. Or it's actually Night Monkey. Technically, that's Night Monkey. And if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. Deke, says Rob Daniels. And I am drinking currently, this is a double espresso cappuccino. So we're hoping for energy tonight. Well, 10 minutes to go here before we start officially, and then I will put on the evening shirt. Do I have anything interesting to tell you? No, not really. Do you want to see the Night Monkey figure? There, I'll show you the Night Monkey figure while we wait for Deke. The stand, incidentally, came with Black Widow. But there's Spider-Man, a.k.a. Night Monkey. And he comes with alternate hands in the shape of fists. But I much, much, much prefer the web-spinning hands. And he also comes with an alternate head with the goggles flipped up. It looks great, but, it's only useful for when he's, like, talking to Nick Fury. Stuff like that. So here's Night Monkey, a.k.a. Spider-Man. And again, the stand came with Black Widow, but this is a great stand. This is fantastic. It's so versatile. It has so many points of articulation for a stand. Think about that. Points of articulation for a stand. Buying the new Black Widow figure with this stand and everything else that she comes with, which is a lot of accessories, totally worth it. Totally worth it. So there's Night Monkey. He will be joining me this evening. So we're just waiting on the arrival of Super Deeks. And that's about it. I guess I'm going to go get the shirt ready for tonight. And I like to have a cold beverage to go with my hot beverage. I like to have a coffee for the energy. That's rocket fuel, basically. Pure rocket fuel. And I also like to have a cold beverage for the sheer lubrication factor. Because talking for this long, as Rob Daniels well knows, talking for this long, it is hard on the throat. And the first few live streams that I did, it took like a good 24 hours for my throat to recover. I must be used to it now because I can do one of these without my throat really bothering me. But part of it is lubrication. So I'm going to go get a cold beverage for lubrication. And I will also get the evening shirt ready. So stay tuned, folks. I don't have a fill the spaceship with the rocket fuel, says Robert Daniels. That's right. This is the spaceship right here. I don't have one of those please stand by signs. I know Chris Sarr really, really likes the please stand by sign, but I do have a wicker chair, and I know the audience likes the wicker chair. So I will be back. I will return. I bet you guys cannot wait to see the new shirt. Bet you can't wait. I've opted for A&W root beer instead of ginger ale because I only have 2 ginger ale left and I want to conserve them. So, A&W root beer. And you can see the new shirt is yellow. The new shirt has new shirt smell. Well, it's almost time. Getting ready for the show. Live streaming for the show. Yeah. All right. Gonna get the live streaming music ready, queued up. Yeah, baby! Welcome to the show. Let's get Deke on board. This is my new show this evening, promoting obscure obscure scores with Robert Daniels, which, as discussed on his as discussed on his live stream on Wednesday, Obscure Scores is Just get all this set up here. Obscure Scores is a show that he does for Cinematic Sound Radio, where he does obscure scores. No sound, homeboy. No sound. No sound?
Got a lot of voices going on here.
No sound.
Okay, now.
Okay, let's try this. Let's try this again. This was working earlier. I don't know why this isn't working. Inviting people to the stream. Hopefully you can hear the stream. Hopefully this works. All right. It is now. Sound is good, says the always reliable Frank Toms. Okay, so you probably didn't hear any of that music. You probably didn't hear me. That probably looks stupid. Did all of that? Was there no music? Was there nothing? Did you guys have nothing? This is Obscure Scores with Robert Daniels, is the show that I'm promoting this evening with tonight's t-shirt. I really like the yellow. You can see it hasn't been ironed. It's the first time I've worn it right out of the package. Obscure Scores is a show that Robert Daniels does on Cinematic Sound Radio, as he discussed this week on his live stream. Okay, you heard. Okay, so help me out here. When did the audio die? When did you lose the audio? Was it when I... Anyway, we got Deke reconnecting now. There he is. There's Deke.
Hey, man, how's it going?
Maybe we have no audio with Deke. I got... no audio with... Yeah, Deke, no audio. No audio. 2 seconds, he's saying. We have no Deke audio is the problem.
Still can't hear me?
Hello? 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 I'm being heard, but nobody can hear Deke, I think, is the problem. Am I understanding this correctly? From Deke. You know what? I'm going to try something here as a test, if I can. I'm going to try this as a test, see if this works. Sorry for the issues tonight, folks. It's different every week. It's different every week. I'm doing a test here. Shit. Okay. Let's try Deke one more time. No, I can't add Deke. I don't know what's going on. We might have some issues here. Oh, Deke is changing phones. Okay. When he is ready, then we shall proceed. Okay, so a little bit more about the shirt. This is from Cinematic Sound Radio. It's a show that Rob does where he talks about obscure scores. And Rob's other show, Visions and Sound, which is, I guess, what you'd call his main gig, they now have shirts for sale too. And I have a t-shirt and a hoodie coming in the mail. And I'm very, very, very excited about those. And he's also going to be selling Visions and Sound masks, which I think is very, very cool. I'm looking forward to getting my Visions and Sound mask when they're available for order. I will be ordering those too, because I believe in supporting our fellow, I don't know what you would call us. Rob is a professional radio guy. I am not in his category. Um, but I would support if Deke put out a Super Deeks T-shirt, I would support him. I just believe in supporting each other, so to speak. And yeah, Chris Sarr says LeBrain needs T-shirts, and I think that's something I want to do at some point. That would be fun to do. But I would have to have a good logo, like this Obscure Scores logo. I love this Obscure Scores. Say that obscure scores, obscure scores, obscure scores, obscure scores. It doesn't. Anyway, I really like the logo, how it looks like a record with the text with Robert Daniels. Mine have shipped, so you should have yours soon. I'm excited about that, Rob. If I get my Visions in Sound shirts within the next week, then you know what I'm going to be wearing next week. Although maybe I should give my Jason Drury shirt a spin. Maybe that's what I should do. Working on my double espresso cappuccino. Pardon the delay here in the start of the program. We're having trouble with Super Deek's phone, so he's switching phones right now. And for those of you who missed it in the preamble, right over here we have Marvel Legends Spider-Man, aka Night Monkey, and he is on Widow, which is a fantastic stand. It comes with all kinds of these explosion pieces, even more than what I have out here. And it has a fully articulated stand. You can change the elevation. You can. It's got all kinds of points of articulation, which is crazy for a stand. Yeah, Jason needs some love too. So maybe I'll wear the Jason Drury shirt next week, and I'll rotate them. So yeah, this is a really cool figure. This is probably my favorite of all the Marvel figures I have so far, is a Night Monkey here. And if you've seen the film, then you know what I'm talking about when I say Night Monkey. He comes with 2 pairs of hands. These ones are the ones I like best, the spinning of the webs. And he comes with an alternate head with the goggles flipped up. Did you buy Meat one for his birthday? I should have. And Frank Toms stands in amazement. Hey, Ellen Elizabeth Peddle, how are you? I was trying to get your husband on to do a test, but he says he's inconvenienced right now. So that's a Night Monkey from the film Spider-Man Far From Home. He'll be joining me this evening. We are just waiting on the arrival of Super Deeks, who is switching phones. And while we're here, may as well show you some scenery, right? We're just waiting on Super Deeks. Okay, so that's not much for the way of scenery. Our beach towels. Chris Sarr says that Scott Peddle is naked, probably. That is probably true. And tonight's episode is brought to you by A&W Root Beer.
Can you hear me?
We got no audio. What's going on? Why don't we not have audio? Okay. I'm going to troubleshoot something on my end here.
Can you hear me now?
I'm going to try unplugging this thing. Maybe this is overriding his audio. That's possible.
Yo.
You can hear Deke. I can't. Oh, I bet you it's because of this thing. Hello, hello.
Hey, man. Can you hear me now?
I can, and I just learned something.
Well, there we go.
This doesn't work. You can't do... I can't use this and hear you at the same time.
Gotcha.
Disappointed.
Take it back, Mikey. Take it back.
Okay, well, everybody can hear us both now, and we're good to go. Michael Lefebvre is here. Kevin Semister is here. We got the whole gang. The gang's all here.
Awesome.
So tonight's theme, lead singer's disease, which was your idea.
Yep.
Mike is really low now, says Kevin. Okay, I'm going to get closer to the phone. They say they can barely hear me.
Darren says he can hear us both. Okay, you know what? We're just going to keep going.
Let's do it.
Lead singer's disease. So what we're talking about here, kind of specifically in the era starting in the 90s, when it seemed every single band was losing their lead singers.
Yep.
And I think the best place to start, the first one that really happened was a shock when Vince Neil was fired or quit, depending on whose publicity statement you believed, from Motley Crue.
Well,
I know for me personally, I felt Motley Crue were on a high, coming off of Dr. Feelgood and going into a Decade of Decadence. I felt that they were basically the biggest rock band in the world at that time, you know?
mm-hmm.
And then when the news came that Vince Neil had been fired or quit, I believe Motley Crue said that he quit, I believe. I was shocked, and I actually didn't believe it. It happened in the winter of '92, and a girlfriend of mine that had MTV, she told me Vince Neil quit Motley Crue, and I did not believe her. Did not believe her. I'm like, why would he quit Motley Crue when they're at their peak?
Yeah, for sure.
And yeah, and well, we know what happened.
Yeah, a lot of bad blood. But see, the thing is, Mikey, they were, like you said, they were riding high because the direction they were going with Primal Scream from Decade of Decadence had probably the fan base, like myself. I thought that was a great tune. And I thought, if that's the way they're going, it's going to sound
Yeah.
pretty good. And then, of course, it was all for naught. You know what? Even all these crazy lineups that they got back together with Tommy Lee in, Tommy Lee out, Vince in, Vince out, they lost all that momentum. They never, ever got it back until they played the farewell tour card, you know. And, you know, yeah, Vince says he was fired, Six, and those guys say he quit. But I was also surprised. I remember at that time, I think it was about 2 or 3 weeks after I heard that he had left. There he is on Dennis Miller plugging the solo tune for the Encino Man movie. And I thought, okay, now there's Nikki Sixx and those guys saying, well, he's a slacker. He just wants to race drag cars and blah, blah, blah. There he is already out with a single. I'm thinking, okay, something's not jiving here, you know. I mean, who knows really what the real deal is, but, you know, and he was also the first one to get an album out too. So it was kind of almost like, you know.
A good album.
Yeah, it was pretty
a
good,
very
you know.
good album.
Yeah. You know, so you know, who knows, you know, ego, money. I mean, they signed that ridiculous record contract with Elektra. What was it? Like 25 million for what?
Yeah.
4 albums, and this is like the early 90s. Like that was that's when their record companies were just like throwing out a ton of dough to everybody. So, and of course, none of those record companies ever made their money back. Even like, to change topics quickly, even ZZ Top, they handed out all that money to RCA, I think, to get ZZ Top from Warner Brothers, or maybe it was the other way around, I don't know, but they never recouped. Same with REM. I mean, all those bands got the huge dough, and it's like Seattle just destroyed it for the record companies more than took out the bands.
Wiped them out.
Yeah, totally. So, yeah. So there you go. But, yeah, it was pretty big news.
So,
I mean,
yeah.
You know.
And then the news continued as the months wore on, because we're hearing about rumors.
Mm-hmm.
So-and-so auditioned for Motley Crue. So-and-so auditioned for Motley Crue. And I remember Chris Sarr just sent me a private message, I need shades. Oh, fuck's sakes. This guy's always sending me like critiques constantly. Some of the big names that we heard were Sebastian Bach from Skid Row,
Mm-hmm.
which absolutely did happen. Gerald McGee from Brighton Rock.
That would have been interesting, actually.
Yeah, he had a great scream.
Mm-hmm.
And the dude from Kick Tracy, Stephen Chirot.
That's right.
They all auditioned for Motley Crue, among other singers. I'm sure they had a lot of singers. And I was a bit surprised that they didn't go for somebody with a bit more name, honestly. But they settled on a guy from a band called The Scream, named John Corabi.
Yeah.
And strangely enough, around the same summer that that Vince Neil track came out, You're Invited But Your Friend Can't Come.
Mm-hmm.
Krabby had a song with the Scream on a soundtrack too, and I can't remember if it was the same one. It might have been Buffy the Vampire Slayer or something like that, but it was called Young and Dumb by the Scream. And I thought, when I heard it, this is the guy? This is the guy that's replacing Vince Neil? Because he didn't sound like what I thought they should have done. I thought they should have gone for a Bach kind of singer. Now, this is all before the album came out and we heard the end results. I thought they should have come out with a Bach kind of singer who could just, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, but it turned out the album was awesome. It was awesome.
I also read somewhere that Stephen Chirot, he I think he made the cut after the first, and he actually kind of told him, nah, I'm not into this, which I find that pretty hard to believe with that kind of payday they were probably going to be looking at, but who knows if that's...
No kidding.
If that's one's ego talking, you know, hindsight's 2020. I'm sure if they offered me or you the singer position back then, as shitty as we would sound, we would take it, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's like, I say the same thing when people criticize Eric Singer and Tommy Thayer for playing in Kiss. It's like, dude, you would not turn this down either.
No.
Don't be you know, it's a no-brainer. You're asked to play in Kiss, you say, yeah. You know? And it's the same to me. If you're the guy that Motley Crue picks back in 92 or whatever year it was, that they were huge and, you know, all that money in those contracts, you say, yeah, okay. And, you know, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And as it turns out, the album flopped and the tour flopped.
Yep. And there became, and the record company said, you got to bring the other, or I think it was the manager that said, we're bringing the other guy back. I'm sure the record company too, because I mean they probably took
the record company did too. Elektra pressured them. There's a famous story. Yeah, there's a famous story that Nikki Sixx was summoned into a meeting with management and the record label, and the subject of the meeting was Vince Neil back into the band, and Nikki Sixx walked into the meeting wearing a shirt that said John.
That's actually quite funny.
So
didn't work, but it's quite funny.
I mean, that's totally a Nikki Sixx thing to do.
Well, back then, yeah, probably for sure. So yeah. I mean, if you want a good spin on it, just read the dirt and the fallout from that whole era of the band. I mean, the movie was one thing where they weren't playing like movie theaters; they were playing bigger sized venues, but yeah, they weren't pulling the crowds they were 3 years previously or 4 years previously. So, you know, record companies, it's the bottom line is for them is the dollar, and they weren't making their dollars back. So bring back the old guy, whatever you got to do. I mean, shit, look how long it took for Van Halen to get back together with Roth. Was it like 30 years?
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, who knows? And it's just crazy that all these bands like just ruined their momentum. The Crue is the biggest one too. I mean, they never put out...
Crue was the biggest one.
I mean, really, how many studio albums have they put out in 40 years? When you really do the math, like actual studio, and we're not talking greatest hits.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, you got the first 5 up to Feel Good.
Yeah.
You got Karabi.
Yeah.
You got Generation Swine, New Tattoo, Saints of Los Angeles.
9
That's
records. 9 records
in 40
over
years.
40 years and about 75 comps.
You're not lying.
And 4 greatest hits, or 4 live albums. So, which probably aren't even live.
Kind of embarrassing.
Yeah, it's not a work ethic. Let's put it that way. But hey, you know what?
What kind of bugs me about the later Motley albums, you know, the first 5 are the first 5. Those are the essential original lineup. But then after that, you get a lot of outside writers contributing on New Tattoo and Saints of Los Angeles. And I think it kind of watered the whole thing down. It as you said earlier, when Motley Crue split with Vince Neil, they never recovered, ever.
No. Not even like Generation Swine. They never even recovered because they kind of went like techno metal, you know, or whatever you want to call it. And I mean, when I think of that album, I think of Glitter, and it's just like, oof, you know, like it's just, I get it. You're trying to adapt to the times, but as we know and we've talked about, Sixx has always followed trends, and right there is another example of following the trend. And it got them back out there, but it didn't really do what it was supposed to do. So for a
It's
reunion
not
record,
okay. So I'm not gonna mince words here. It's not a good album. It's not. It has some really crappy songs in there, like "Find Myself" is shit, in my opinion. And
all
I'm not
right,
gonna candy coat it. Hi, mom. Hi, mom.
make sure you water the plants, Mikey.
It rained really good last night, so I'm off the hook.
See, yeah, well, it took me a lot of years to realize that I think if you shaved 4 or 5 songs off Generation Swine and got it down to 9 or 10 songs, it'd be pretty good. There is really no need for a tune called Brandon on there. Like,
No.
yeah,
Um.
that's no different than Eddie Van Halen
Although
doing How Many Say I. Like, there's no need for that. We'll get into that later.
it's yeah. You know what? Um. Let's sum up Motley Crue real quick. They never recovered. Krabby ended up suing them for unpaid royalties or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Lawsuits back and forth. And although Krabby did record demos for the next album, Generation Swine, those demos have never been heard and will likely never ever be heard because of all this bad blood that happened between him and Motley. So that's an unfortunate ending to that particular story for me.
But, there's always a but. Karabi did the right thing a few years ago and released the Live 94, right? So, and that is very well done. So good on him, because obviously
Go
Nicky Six
to
couldn't be bothered.
Arena Rock, read the review. Go to michaeladano.com, read the review.
And John T. Snow
And if
was the
John T. Snow
actual,
wrote a review, which I'm assuming he did, Too Loud, Too Old, go to him and read the review.
he's got the vinyl, pal.
There you go. Go to all three, read the review. You will be sold.
Yep.
Now,
good.
the next one that I remember is, and if you want to say another one, go right ahead. But the first one that's on my mind, that happened after Motley Crue, was another shock. Rob Halford.
Yeah. Well, that was a big time shock. I mean,
Do you have
that was
anything else you want to talk about before I go into Rob?
No, we basically summed up the Crew. They basically, like you said, they lost all the steam, and
Yeah.
sure, you know, play the farewell card, people will come. Play the farewell
Yeah.
card again for the stadium tour, people will come. But as far as, like I said, what do? What do you count? 10 albums over 40 years? That's awesome. Good on them. Oh well, people, hey, that's greatest hits. That's why I have a problem with those things sometimes. And that's one of them. But
Yeah.
you know, so all right, let's move on to Robbo.
How did you hear about Rob leaving Priest?
I think it was might have been either on Much Music on the Power Hour or Meat Magazine.
Meat for me.
Yeah, so one of the two, but it was like, wow, that's crazy. Like, what are they gonna do? Like, that's a pretty big voice to leave your band. Well, of course, there's another one right after. I think I know where we're headed, but
Yeah.
it's just nuts. Got to get the sponsor in there.
Yeah, I heard about Rob leaving Priest through Meat Magazine in one of their little news blurbs, but I didn't really know any of the details until they ran the big interview with Priest when they released their greatest hits, Metalworks, in '93.
Okay.
And KK kind of spilled the beans there, and basically Rob Halford quit the band via fax, saying that it was something to do with management. He said he quit the band in order to disentangle himself from the management so he could proceed with his solo career with a different manager. And he sent this fax saying, I will be comfortable rejoining Judas Priest in 5 years. And they were like, what the? Like, they were getting ready to write their next album, record a follow-up to Painkiller. And then they got derailed by Halford, and then he went kind of off the rails a bit, listening to Pantera too much.
Yeah, that was the Fight release, right?
Yeah.
Was that Nailed
Which
to the
was
Gun?
it was a Pantera knockoff, let's be honest. It was a Pantera knockoff.
Was that with Nailed to the Gun? Was that the name of the song?
Yep.
Because my brother bought that on cassette, and he goes, "You got to hear these guys." And I figured it didn't appeal to me. But my brother, being 10 years younger than me at the time, he liked it. So I thought,
Yeah.
there's where he's going with his sound. It's just not for me, but for a young kid, 14, 15, yeah, there you go. So, yeah,
It's what he was. Is what Halford did. What he was into.
yeah, for sure. Well, then he hooked up
But he
with,
also took the drummer with him.
yeah, that's right, Mr. Double Bass.
Yeah. So at the time, Priest there was only 3 guys left in Priest.
Yep.
And as it happens, all of Rob Halford's entire fight career came and went before Priest did anything, and the drummer rejoined Priest. So you have a discography, a Priest discography that's seamless with Scott Travis, as if he never left the band for 5 years and joined Halford. And they ended up, it's kind of a stupid story now because of the way the movie came out, but they hired a guy from a tribute act named Tim Owens, and he replaced Rob Halford, and somehow this got made into a weird movie called Rockstar, which had very, very little to do with the actual Judas Priest story.
It was Hollywood cheese.
It was Hollywood cheese. It was pretty terrible. But it's a true story that Tim Owens did sing in a Priest tribute band before he was discovered by, I don't remember if it was Scott Travis who discovered him or whoever it was, but here comes Tim Ripper Owens for the Jugulator album.
Yeah, you know what?
Which came out 5 years after Halford left the band.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, you know what? You take away, everything's social media nowadays, but you have to admit that was a pretty cool move back then that they actually nabbed a tribute guy. Like, nobody was doing it. Now then, you got Journey and a lot of other bands getting guys that sound like the original guy, but they were the first band to actually do it, and being metal was even more crazy. But you know what? I never really took to those Ripper records. I never took to the Fight records. I never even really took to the Painkiller record. I'm just so old school Priest. It ended for me around Turbo, Unleashed to the East to Turbo, and then I kind of checked out. And then I bought the Firepower. The last one was good, but another band with a ton of drama. Another band with some drama. And then KK Downing leaves and yada yada. And
there's management stuff going on there that is behind a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
I haven't read KK's book. I don't know if he talks about that at all, but I know Rob's got a book coming out.
That I'm actually got on pre-order because I think that's going to be a great read because that dude's been through
that
through
will
a
be
lot.
great.
So yeah.
Hey, Jeff Steven just joined us.
I think Dar's out there too. Dar out there?
I did see a Darren.
There you go.
Hey.
Dar's there, yeah. And then we also
I don't know if
Max.
this is the original. This could be the fake Jeff, not the real Jeff. I'm not sure which Jeff we have tonight.
Pre-haircut or after haircut?
Who knows? I can tell you one thing is that you're not alone on that Halford stuff and the fight stuff and the Ripper stuff. Uncle Meat said he's never heard a Ripper Owens album.
No.
There's some good material on there. I think you could probably take his 2 CDs that he made with Priest and combine them into one good 10-track album, but that's about it.
Yeah.
It's nothing to write home about, but live he was excellent.
Oh yeah, I've watched YouTube clips with him and singing Green Man Alicia and stuff, and you close your eyes and you would think it was Rob from '84. You can't
there's Dar.
Yeah, hey pal. You can't knock the guy's talent whatsoever, but Priest was, but I think that all started in Toronto. Isn't that where Halford mugged out on his Harley at the last show and kind of knocked
He hit a beam, like right on the bridge of his nose. Darren says you look badass with the shaves and the uneven look. The unshaven look, sorry, and the shade. I have an unshaven look too, Dar. Come on, buddy. He hit himself in the head, and he missed the entire first song, which was Hellbent for Leather.
Yeah.
And Rob later claimed that knocked some sense into him.
Ouch.
Sounds very bitter and passive aggressive. There was a lot of bad blood there, and what happened with them was they eventually kind of regained contact when it was time for Priest to do that Mythology box set.
Right.
And they started talking again and realized that they still had a friendship. And that led to the reunion album, Angel of Retribution, which came out around,
Don't kid yourself,
yeah.
pal.
Okay,
It's a
let's be
business.
honest, though. Let's be honest, though. It warms the heart to picture the original Priest guy sitting in a bar, having drinks and saying, you know what, Rob, I missed you. I'm sure that those words were said. You know, those guys were like brothers on the road for a lot of years. I'm sure that there was a lot of hugs and a
Oh,
lot of
yeah.
feelings.
And then I'm sure at the end of the night, then it was decided who's going to pick up the tab.
No question, whenever something like this happens, money is the be all or end all. It will make or break your deal. There's a
true.
reason why certain bands have never reunited, and it's because the money was never there, you know?
No.
There's a band that was kind of in a similar situation as Judas Priest with an unreplaceable singer. And maybe I'll let you take the lead on this one.
Well, that'd be my homeboys, Iron Maiden. I mean,
Your homeboys.
when Bruce pulled the pin, I was like, what? Okay, first Vince, that's one thing. Halford's one thing, but Dickinson, it's like, God. I mean, I remember going when they went from Diano to Dickinson. And I didn't even know. I bought Killers in the summer of '81, and then I didn't even know because they didn't get a lot of press coverage, and I didn't even know that Diano had left. And then when I went to the record store and bought Number of the Beast and flipped it over, and there's Bruce holding that torch. I'm like, who's this guy?
Who's that guy?
And after I listened to Invaders, first 3 minutes, it's like, gee, I'm good with this. And then once he announced 10 years later that, yeah, I'm kind of tired of the same old Steve Harris production, the same old Iron Maiden sound.
Yeah.
I'm kind of out of here, want to do different stuff. And I thought, well, maybe I'll get two good bands out of this, with Bruce being solo and whoever Bruce was going to be replaced by in Maiden. And it didn't quite go so smoothly for Maiden, whereas Dickinson put out albums that were out-mating the Maiden albums, however you want to say that.
Yeah,
like,
at one point he did,
you know, You know, with Accident.
And there was a
Birth
band that everybody was speculating who's going to join, who's going to be the new singer.
Yeah.
And the big rumor that I recall hearing, aside from the rumor that, oh, they're going to get Diano back, there was Michael Kiska from Halloween was the big rumor.
Well, he sounded like him totally. And the other one I heard
Yeah.
was the Dream Theater guy, James LeBrain.
LeBrain, yeah.
And that would have been.
There's no way he would have left his. Yeah, they were booming. They were booming at that time. Dream Theater.
Well, they were that way,
Yeah.
and so I could see they were going to go after what the hot band was at the time, and it was Dream Theater. So that angle makes sense, but I could never hear that guy singing "Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner."
No.
Or
I recall in an interview that Steve Harris said he preferred an Englishman to be the singer, so that kind of ruled out a lot of people. I remember my sister and I speculating, like, in this intermediary void of all these bands losing their singers, what would have happened if Halford and Dickinson switched bands?
Jesus. Well, Halford he filled in for Ozzy, or no, he filled in for Sabbath, right?
More than once, like 3 times.
Yeah, so it's not that absurd of an idea. Like,
Ian Gillen. But yeah, the Dickinson thing, again, there was bad blood there. I recall all the Maiden books that came out at the time. I recall them saying that Bruce seemed like he was more into the band than ever before around the time of Fear of the Dark, but then started losing interest rapidly when he was working on his solo album.
Mm-hmm.
And in an interview that I read with Bruce, he felt that he needed to give 100% to his new direction, which was, as we know, it was very different from Maiden.
Yeah.
That he found something that he loved, that he needed to pursue it 100%, and the only way he could do that was to leave Iron Maiden. And he called the manager, Rod Smallwood, broke the news to him and said, I got good news and bad news. The good news is that the solo album is coming along excellently. The bad news is I've decided to leave Iron Maiden. Now, I realize what position this puts you in. So if you'd like, I will call Steve. And Rod Smallwood said, no, do not call Steve.
Yeah.
So Rod made the call, informed Steve Harris of this. They already had a tour booked because they'd recorded that live album, a real live one.
Mm-hmm.
They already had a tour booked. And here's Bruce leaving. And they decided to proceed with that tour with Bruce Dickinson. And according to Steve Harris and Nico McBrain,
he half-assed
Bruce half-assed that tour.
Yeah.
The only one who sticks up for Yannick Gers is the only one who has stuck up for Bruce during that period.
Because he played on
they had their own relationship.
And he got him in Maiden. So he even I read the official biography Mick Wall book at the time. And he couldn't get he said Gers would not even go there. Like the other two guys did, Harris and McBain, but Yannick Gers said, no, man, you're not getting anything out of me. It is what it is, and he's still a pal, yada, yada, and let's move on. Which, good on him, because he could have said, oh, I joined this band, and now he quits. Well, no, he never went that way. So, but they've always kept stuff tight, like a lot of that drama they kept in-house. Unlike Motley Crue, where it was every month in Metal Edge or Circus or Kerrang, you could find, them flinging mud at each other, verbal mud at each other, just like Van Halen did the decade before that. I mean, keeps the name in the press, I guess, but Maiden just kind of kept all that stuff in-house. Even Priest they just went right off the map as well. But obviously they didn't have a singer, so I guess that's the problem. But Maiden, that shocked me. I was kind of like, oh gosh. And then Bruce did Balls of Picasso, and I thought, well, it's a different vibe. I get what he's doing. Hopefully he'll go back someday. And then 94 rolls into 95, and 95 and then 96, and then he put out Accident at Birth, and then when he brought back Adrian Smith on that record, I thought, okay, now he's kind of making a Maiden-esque kind of record. And I mean, obviously,
well, if I can pause you for 1 second there, he was trying to stick it to Maiden a bit. He got Derek Riggs to do the cover art.
That's
and
right.
If you remember, it was that guy popping out of the light bulb. And as a piss take on Maiden, he called it Edison.
Yeah, that's right.
Pun on Eddie.
Yeah.
Okay, continue.
Kind of funny though, because they were still both managed by Rod Smallwood and stuff, so it wasn't. But his records. I was actually listening to the Bruce solo records more than the two Blaze albums, and I bought both those records, and it was a different Maiden, and Brent Jensen wrote a chapter of it when Maiden showed up to Hamilton with Blaze Bayley. And Brent went to that show, and he writes in his book, No Sleep Till Sudbury, which you all should check out. He writes it was like almost going to a funeral, because he says he doesn't know how many times that Harris gave Blaze Bayley the stink eye during the Dickinson tunes. So he kind of knew right then and there that, wow.
What, for like sour notes?
Well, just probably the range, and Harris is a perfectionist, right? Dickinson always delivered.
Yeah.
So that horse shit about Dickinson not pulling his weight on that last Maiden tour, I don't buy that. Maybe the odd show, but who wouldn't have an off show, right? You're human. But they made it
Here's
sound
something
like,
interesting, and if Harrison is watching, maybe Harrison can comment. But today there would be no question. We would know because there would be video. Maybe Harrison, who is a YouTube junkie, maybe he knows of 92, 93 Maiden videos that either prove or disprove this theory. I think Blaze Bayley was an odd choice. Nothing at all like their previous two singers, and no range at all.
Nah, it was a different vibe. And the funny thing is that record came out the same day as Van Halen's Greatest Hits, with the two new Raw songs that were on the Greatest Hits, Me Wise Man. So there you go. There's two bands right there going. And of course, for 5 seconds, we all thought Dave was back. But sorry, I'm going off the tracks there. But back to Bruce. I mean, it was a welcome relief when, I read again that, he's back in Maiden along with Adrian Smith, and I thought, okay, now we're talking.
That was a brilliant move on Steve's part.
And to keep Yannick.
And although we're talking about lead singers tonight, it's worth mentioning that when Steve reunited with Bruce Dickinson and brought Adrian Smith back into the band, he kept Yannick Gers, and Yannick asked Steve, what happens to me? And Steve Harris says, I want 3 guitar players, but if it comes between you and Adrian, you're the guitar player in Maiden now.
Yeah, well,
Loyalty.
there you go. Yeah,
Loyalty.
it's loyalty, yeah, because he didn't leave.
Yep.
So, but yeah.
Okay, Harrison has a comment on this. He has found a 92 show where Bruce is absolutely nailing it, although that fits the allegation that he only performed for the camera. So, jury is still out. Thank you, Harrison.
But
Appreciate that.
But you remember also too, Mikey, when Dickinson announced his exit from Maiden, they just pounded out the real live one, real dead one, and then live at Donington, all within like 8 months. It's like they were just we're gonna throw everything that we got with Dickinson right now out to the public. And then I listened to those records. Dickinson's voice is there. The version of Remember Tomorrow on a real dead one is like so good. So I never bought into that horse shit that they were saying about him. So, why would you put that out if the guy was doing such a lousy job on your last tour?
I believe Bruce has said that he gave it 100%, but there was no denying there was an atmosphere of everybody knew that. I guess that's just something you can't help. That was the tour. It was the last tour with Bruce. There was a negative feeling about it. Oh, and Harrison Kopp wants to remind us of the Raising Hell video, which was the final show with Bruce with the magician, the heavy metal magician, Simon something.
I rented that on pay-per-view. Me and my brother watched it.
Like live that day? No kidding.
It was on a time delay, but it was the last ever. So I said to my brother, "You make sure you're home Saturday night. I'm ordering, this last show with Maiden." And then when they chopped off his head at the end, I thought, okay, man, it is a done deal.
Man, I haven't watched that in years.
Yeah, I don't think Harrison.
I do remember that day though, because this is so stupid. Meat Magazine would always say, the final show for Bruce Dickinson is going to be this show. They're recording it. It's August 23 or whatever it was. And I remember being here in Kincardine at the Zayres store, saying to my sister, today Bruce Dickinson's playing his very last show with Iron Maiden.
Yeah.
And she'd be like, so?
Yeah. Well, it was a big so.
Yeah.
A real big
But it was a big deal to me. And I thought, one of the things I really liked about Bruce as a frontman, he has a terrific sense of humor. And there was none of that with Blaze. None.
No.
And now it's back.
Oh, yeah, it's totally back. I mean, I've seen him on their last 3 tours, and, he's a bit of a, he likes to make sure the crowd's into it. He's always watching. He watches the whole arena. And I know when seen him on the Legacy tour last year, all he did, right before I think they played the Klansmen, he did all the talking there, and the rest of the show was just music. Like
Sorry.
No, it's all good. So, yeah, and he's got a way of handling crowds. If you're sitting on your ass, he'll call you out. You got to be paying it. Don't go on your phone in front of him. So I'll say, don't film him. Bruce.
So, Dickinson obviously, again, came back. Extremely successful second career, just like Priest have had. But you, earlier, alluded to another band. The next band, the next major band, anyway, that lost their lead singer. And again, it was kind of a shock. It was after 4 albums with the same singer. And he was already a replacement singer, and why don't you take it from here?
No, you take it. I did enough talking about Maiden.
Sorry?
You go with it, pal. I did enough talking with Maiden.
Okay. So, we're sitting here, getting all excited about a new single by Van Halen called Humans Being. And the music video comes out, and, it's Van Hagar. It sounds like Van Hagar. It sounds like a continuation. But suddenly, Sammy Hagar is gone, and the magazines all say the same thing. Van Halen are recording with David Lee Roth.
Oh yeah, I went.
So this is the thing we've all been waiting for over 10 years. Been waiting for this moment.
Well, people went.
David Lee Roth coming back. And of course, before you could even really speculate, David Lee Roth is out, and it's fucking Gary Cherone from Extreme.
But before Gary Cherone, they were trying out Sash Jordan.
Sash Jordan, or no, Deke. I'm not 100% sure. Sash Jordan might have been the second time, in around 1999-2000. Might have been. I'm not 100% clear on this, but they did have another shuffle of singers around 99-2000, and David Coverdale was one of the singers rumored to be joining Van Halen in 99-2000.
Yeah, there was Coverdale, and then there was that Mitch Malloy for less than 5 minutes.
Mitch Malloy was before Gary Cherone.
Yeah,
and they recorded like him singing some Hagar tunes, I believe.
Yeah, so I mean,
I'm gonna read some comments real quick. Sure. Nobody better than Bruce Dickinson with a crowd. The only rival might be Bono, says Meat. Kevin Semister says you're missing out. Some guys really know what they're doing, and there are some solid soundboard. Oh, okay, this is in regards to Harrison. Harrison says he doesn't listen to bootlegs, but Kevin Semister says there are some good ones out there, and they're going back and forth about bootlegs. Robert Daniels did not know about Sash Jordan, but hey, yes, really.
Quick plug, Mikey. We got to plug Kevin's show. I think he's going live at 8 on YouTube. His vinyl
Let's plug
show.
Kevin Semister's show.
Yeah, I got
live
to do the plug, 8. Man. Good thing he didn't start at 7 because we'd be destroying him in the ratings.
Who was the other? Was it Patti Smythe? Was the other singer that Van Halen were rumored to be looking at way back in to replace
before
Roth?
Hager? Before Hager.
Yeah.
They were thinking.
So
of,
Robert,
they were thinking of doing an
Sash
album.
Jordan was their second female lead singer that they were looking for.
They were thinking of doing an album back then of all different singers. Yeah. I thought.
That's right.
I think I was like, 17 going on 18 at the time, and I'm like, no, yeah. don't like. So.
And yes, Mom, she's the one on Canadian Idol. She's from Quebec.
Good call.
I'm not going to read all of Harrison's stuff going back and forth about bootlegs. I'll continue on with the Van Halen thing. So we find out Gary Cherone is the new lead singer, which I was actually okay with because I thought that Extreme 3 and Welcome to the Punchline album, I thought they were fantastic. I really do, and I still feel that way. But when Gary Cherone joined Van Halen, suddenly he changed the way he sang. And instead of singing that smooth, extreme lead vocal, he was doing the Cookie Monster voice.
Yeah, it was kind of weird. But that's probably because of Eddie and Alex being at the controls and saying, "Yeah, don't make it sound like that other band you're in, yada yada. Make it sound different." But I'll tell you a quick story about that album. When that album was released, the day of, me and T-Bone were at a show here in T-Bay, Big Wreck, when Big Wreck was touring on their first record. And the local radio station was, I'm not going to plug them because they're shit. They were playing the new Van Halen record, and nobody cared. Me and T-Bone were there, and we bumped into a guy we went to high school with, and he said, "Hey, this is the new Van Halen." He was kind of like, Then we kind of looked at each other and we thought, uh-oh. So right there, big lead singer change, crowd hearing it pumped over a bar, not feeling it. So they thought, wow, they're probably in rough waters. And they were, but I did like the fact that they did bring back a lot of the old tunes for that tour. And
yes, somebody get me a doctor.
Yeah, and like Romeo's Delight, like they were playing all the stuff that they totally ignored when Sammy was in the band. So
yeah, and that was Sammy's fault.
Oh, totally. Yeah, he didn't want to sing the other guy's tunes. I mean, he had Sammy always had a problem with when Dave said, "You'll never catch me singing a Sammy Hagar tune." So, I mean, the war words, right? War words.
Yeah.
They just went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I still remember when Roth first quit Halen or fired or wherever you want to spin it. T-Bone was out at his summer camp that year, and they had one of those Well, there's a bunch of camps out there, and they had one central phone. It was like a party line, and I'd very seldom call him. I would very seldom call him. And when I heard that, I said, I gotta call him. So I called him, and he was talking to some neighbors of his, and they told him, they said, that David Lee Roth guy quit Van Halen. And Troy's like, what? And then next thing you know, his mom's calling him. She's saying, Troy, Derek's on the phone. And then T-Bone's thinking, God, it must be true. So I think his first words to me was, did he really leave? It's like, yeah, man, gotta go. We're on the party line. Click.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
I think what's kind of funny about that is that that's not the only, you guys are definitely not the only two people that had that phone call.
Yeah.
There's thousands of kids that had that phone call.
Oh yeah, no kidding. I mean, they were huge with the '84 record, and when they announced shortly after that Sammy was joining, I mean, I caught him on his VOA tour when he was headlining on that record, so I knew he would bring it live because he was all over the stage, and he had that lighting truss for his solo tour that came down.
Yeah.
And it was a great show, so I thought, okay, well, I'm good with him being in there, but I hope the album's good. And 5150 was a good record, so they're one of the few bands that could pull off a lead singer change and get away with it in sales and have a great second run. But then they pushed it a third time, and
although everybody's opinion differs on that too.
Yeah.
Like some people think the third album's, like our local radio station did a full album playback of For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge a few weeks ago, and I you know how I feel about that album. We did a back and forth. I believe Derek Courtpetter and me over some Van Halen stuff. Mm-hmm. But Uncle Meat thinks that Van Halen should have scooped up Darby Mills. That would have sounded interesting. Personally, I think at this point, you're never going to hear Van Halen ever perform live again.
No.
I think Eddie, unfortunately, he might be too sick. And those guys don't like each other. They don't.
No. I remember, you ever been to that site called The Smoking Gun? Where they print movie contracts and concert contracts. And I remember the Van Halen one, the tour rider for the 2007 tour. It said right in there in the printing that David Lee Roth wanted his dressing room at the exact opposite end of the building of the Van Halen brothers. There you go.
Yeah.
So
no love lost.
But up on stage, man, they're high-fiving each other, and you're the greatest. Thanks for coming out, folks.
I'm going to rewind just a minute here because when David Lee Roth quote-unquote rejoined Van Halen in '96, the big moment was the MTV Awards.
That's right.
They agreed to present an award with David Lee Roth in the band, but they didn't want to acknowledge. They just wanted to go up there and present the award. They didn't want to say, hey, look who's here, right?
Yeah.
But then
he did.
Dave decided to take it upon himself to say, I just want to point out that this is the first time that we've shared a stage in over a decade, all right? And the audience is going, yeah! Yeah! And I think Chris Rock, somebody was in the audience just, going crazy. You see these guys in the audience going crazy. They had to acknowledge it. And
you could see Eddie's body language. Eddie's body language in that video says it all. He's like trying to slide out of the frame. Yeah. It's like
he doesn't want to do it.
No.
He doesn't want to do it. You can tell he doesn't want to do it.
Yeah.
And then they present the award to Beck, and Beck comes out and he goes, I'd like to thank Van Halen. They look even more and more awkward.
Yeah.
And then reportedly they had to do their publicity, their behind the scenes interviews, run the gauntlet of all the different media. And Alex was complaining about a sore neck, and they wouldn't want to talk about this reunion that was clearly happening right in front of their eyes. They didn't want to talk about it. They wanted to talk, Eddie's having hip surgery, and Alex's neck is bothering him, and nobody wanted to talk about the elephant in the room. And I guess Alex kind of wanted to inflate. Alex wanted to amplify the situation that was happening. And Alex said, yo, Dave, why don't you go jump on that limousine like you used to in the old days? So Dave goes and jumps on a limousine and does his thing. And I guess that was just it. That tore it. It was over.
Yeah. Well, Dave, the thing I couldn't.
They stopped returning his phone calls. They were supposed to do a music video for Me Wise Magic or whatever, and Dave saw the storyboards for the music video, and it had the 3 guys in Van Halen playing on stage, and Dave in the background on a screen.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Fuck this, fuck this."
You know the
So
thing
it was never gonna. They never wanted him back. They never wanted him back. They
But you
did
know
that,
what?
in my opinion. They did that to spite Sammy Hagar, which they did, and that was a stupid thing.
It worked.
They disagreed with Sammy Hagar over a greatest hits album.
You know, that's the thing too. But when I heard Me Wise Magic, man, we dug that tune. We thought, whoa, this is the shit, man. Because, you know, get ready for a new album. The funny thing is, have you read the Martin Popoff book, Unchained, on Van Halen?
I have not finished it. I have it.
Okay, well, I don't want to blow too much of it out for you, but you might already know this, when they recorded Can't Get This Stuff No More?
Yep.
Is that the name of the tune?
Yes.
When Hagar heard it and it was coming out, he called them up and said, "Hey, I had a hand in writing this tune musically."
Oh.
And as it turned out, they said, "Okay, well, we'll credit you." And he said, "You are not putting me in the credits with that record with Roth's name on it. You can buy me out of the song." And there you go. So there's a little tidbit for you. Yeah, so. And I thought, you know what, when you think about it, that kind of is more of a Sammy kind of driving tune, more than Me Wise Magic was, right? Then again, Human Beings was such a great track, and as you spoke of earlier, I thought they were headed in a real cool direction, because Eddie's solo on that is just fucking sick. And All for Nothing.
100%.
But they were lucky. They got, you know, they lost momentum, and then they did the Hagar reunion, you know, and yeah, they, you know, people still go see them, but their album sales, like even A Different Kind of Truth, just really didn't shoot through the roof, which I was surprised, because it's a pretty damn good Van Halen record, but finicky public. So
Tyler says, and here I thought normal people were the only petty folk, but now it seems even musicians take the cake. Yeah, it's true. Musicians can be really petty, man. They're some of these guys, Tyler, you have to understand. A guy like Sammy Hagar, a guy like David Lee Roth, they've been superstars since they were young adults. They've never had to work an honest day's work in their life. They've never had to answer to anybody their entire life. They are grown children, is all they are. Grown children, and they still act like grown children.
You know what? Can I add one more thing about that MTV thing? The presentation? The one thing I couldn't take my eyes off, other than Eddie being so uncomfortable, was how high Roth had his pants hiked up. It was almost like Urkel. Yeah, you remember that?
He looked like Grimley.
And he had the Sidewinder going. I was like, what? It's like, and there's Eddie wearing his overalls with nothing, no t-shirt on, kind of going, That's the best, man. I think I'm going to have to watch that again tonight.
I don't know what Tyler's talking about now, but he says bullshit, and you know how hard it is to write an actually moving piece of music. I'm not sure what you're on about. You're talking about the behavior of these lead singers. Oh, we got some audio issues.
And I think I'm going to have to watch that again tonight.
Yeah. I don't know what Tyler's talking about now, but he says bullshit, and you know how hard it is to write an actually moving piece of music. I'm not sure what you're on about. You're talking about the behavior of these. I don't know what's going on here with the audio.
What's going on here, man?
Okay, I think we're back. I think.
I'm hearing your voice from the reading the comments. Oh, wait a minute. I think we might be good now.
Hello, hello? Hello?
Can you hear me okay, Mikey?
Tyler, I honestly don't know what you're talking about right. We're talking about lead singers. We're talking about David Lee Roth. We're talking about Van Halen. We're not talking about writing songs. Deke's down. No, wait, he's back. I can hear you fine.
Yeah, I keep hearing my voice talking to you almost in a delay.
Do you want to kill the stream and try again?
Yeah, let's try her again.
Okay, yeah, Meat says complete audio mayhem. Okay, we're going to shut her down and try again.
Shut her down!
Okay, we're going to try this. We're going to try inviting people back. Boop, boop, boop. We had complete audio mayhem. We're going to try to restore the stream. Get this going again. I hear schnauzers. I hear schnauzers. There are schnauzers. I can hear them. I can hear the schnauzers. Oh, yeah. Can you guys hear these schnauzers? I sure hope you can. All right, I've invited a bunch of people. Looks like most everybody's back. Bumface says Eric Litwiller. We're bringing Deke back.
Frankie Tom says, "Oh yeah,
Hey man, can you hear me?
yeah."
You can hear me okay now?
Actually, I can hear you better than I could before.
Really? I took the headphones off, so that's why you see my. Well, that's good.
Extreme close-up.
Yeah. Sorry, folks.
So I just want to clarify for anybody that's confused. I'm not criticizing anybody's abilities as a songwriter. I'm saying that as human beings, David Lee Roth has probably never even had to buy groceries in his entire life. These people do not have the same thinking and emotional you know what I'm saying? Like they are these guys. Alice Cooper, as of the $1 Billion Babies era, did not know how to buy groceries. You know,
Yeah.
a lot of these
right.
guys, they have the emotional development of children, and that's how they behave in public, and they still do. Sammy Hagar is still a freaking child every time he complains about not being in Van Halen. That's all.
But you
I'm
know
saying.
what? They know how to maneuver around a liquor and beer store.
Kevin Semister left a great comment just before he left to do his show. Anthrax. We didn't talk about Anthrax when we were getting ready to do this show.
No.
Joey Belladonna was another singer that the media were bound naming as a possible replacement for Bruce in Maiden.
Right.
But yeah, Joey, I guess getting fired from Anthrax, I guess it was, and getting replaced by John Bush from Armored Saint. That was, in my opinion, a cool move.
It was a cool move. I mean, you probably know this. The only album of theirs I own is State of Euphoria, and never really checked out their stuff before then or after them. But when Bush joined them, my brother bought the first one on cassette. What was it called?
Sound of White Noise.
Sound of White Noise, yeah. And when I heard him sing, I thought first thing was, well, I bought the debut Armored Saint album like 10 years before that, so I knew John Bush could sing it, but he sounded, I thought, way better than Joey did in Anthrax. Sorry, all you diehards, but I heard that album, I thought, man, this one's pretty good.
Joey has sort of like a classic thrash sounding, well, maybe not a classic thrash sounding voice, but in my, he sounds like classic Anthrax to me. But then John Bush came in, and I think it got heavier. And you know what, Harrison, that's a good idea. Let's talk about Sabbath.
Okay.
1990, they did an album called Tear with Tony Martin, which I like.
Mikey,
I think it's a great album.
Mikey.
Yeah.
And just like that, Anthrax gets cut out of the show.
Well, I didn't prepare for Anthrax.
No, it's all good. I have really nothing to add. It's just kind of funny how we go on about everybody else. Okay, yeah, why not?
Sorry.
No, it's all good, man. It's all good.
I did prepare a bit for Sabbath, though, because Sabbath was a weird one. Like a lot, all of these are weird ones.
Yeah.
But Sabbath, it wasn't a huge deal that Tony Martin was gone. What was the big deal was that they were back with Dio. And it was always kind of like, who's it going to be? Is it going to be Ozzy or is it going to be Dio? Is it going to be Ozzy or is it going to be Dio? And around Live Aid, it looked like it was going to be Ozzy. But ultimately, Dio was the first one to rejoin Black Sabbath in '92 for Dehumanizer. But even that was not simple. There was an issue over the drummer. Dio didn't want to work with Cozy Powell. He said something about Cozy Powell doesn't know how to jam. So eventually Cozy Powell found himself on the outs, and Vinny Appice's back in Sabbath. Ronnie got his way. There's some fighting already. And then we find out after the fact that this album that they wrote and recorded with Dio, they also recorded an alternate version with Tony Martin just in case the Dio thing didn't work out.
No kidding. Never knew that. Yeah, that's just crazy.
Yeah.
Well,
so there's an
Sabbath,
alternate version of Dehumanizer with Tony's vocals.
Sabbath lost me when it didn't work out with David Donato. I knew you'd like that one.
yeah. I think everybody was crushed when Donato wasn't the permanent lead singer.
But they did
they did do a photo shoot with him.
Yeah, and that was it. Yeah, that's all they did with them. Boom, gone.
I have one demo. I have one demo of him doing a song. I believe it's called No Way Out, but it's actually The Shining. It's what later became The Shining. Dio and Powell were in Rainbow together, says Michael Lefebvre. Yeah, that's right. And because of that experience in Rainbow, Dio said, no way is Cozy Powell going to be the drummer in Black Sabbath when I'm the singer. Yeah, Cozy Powell had done fine in Sabbath on the previous 3 albums or whatever it was. 2 albums.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I mean, that's probably ego talking and hurt feelings or
more ego.
Drama,
Yeah.
Old rock dude drama. Been going on for decades.
Yeah.
Really, are you finished with the Sabbath, or you want to keep going?
No, because it gets even better. At the same time that the Sabbath stuff is going on, what's that?
I didn't say anything.
Oh, okay. At the same time the Sabbath stuff is going on, Ozzy is on his No More Tours tour. And somebody says, hey, Ozzy, if you're going to quit touring, you have to sing with Sabbath one more time. And he goes, all right. Okay, Sean, I'll sing with Sabbath. Call Tony. Call Tony and I'll do Sabbath. So they call Tony and they do Sabbath, but Dio says, no fucking way am I playing on the same bill as Ozzy Osbourne. Yeah. Again, these egos. And because of that, Dio's out. And Rob Halford's singing for Rob Halford. Halford is singing for Black Sabbath for a couple of shows.
And that was around 92 as well.
92,
so there's another singer change. Like, it was, what a crazy year for singer changes. Like,
and then ultimately back to Tony Martin.
4 bands. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's crazy. Like, and then, well, then your homeboy there, Ian Gillen.
Yeah.
Came in on one of your favorite albums.
Yeah. Ian Gillen departed Deep Purple for the second time in the 80s. But by the time we start the 90s, Joe Lynn Turner is established as the lead singer of Deep Purple, and he did a reportedly disastrous tour. At which point the record label says, well, why don't you get back Ian Gillen? And Richie Blackmore is very resistant.
Of course.
But money talks, as you said.
Yep.
Money talks, and they're back with Ian Gillen. But Gillen, according to his book, Child in Time, it was more of an audition. He felt like he was on an audition to come back to Deep Purple. They already had a bunch of songs written with Joe Lynn Turner, and basically Gillen and Glover rewrote the vocals, which Blackmore didn't want them to do. Blackmore said, there's nothing wrong with the original vocals. Why don't you just sing it the way Joe Lynn wrote it? And of course, ego. So Gillen and Glover rewrote the lyrics, and Blackmore reportedly hated Time to Kill was the name of the song on The Battle Rages On. Blackmore reportedly hated it. This eventually resulted in Blackmore leaving Deep Purple because he couldn't stand working with Ian Gillen. And it was clear that was the only way that they had a viable touring future with Ian Gillen. So Blackmore's out. Joe Satriani's in temporarily. And finally, Eric Litwiller's favorite guitar player, Steve Morse. And now we are in a brand new era where Deep Purple are a reborn band.
Yeah. And they just keep going.
All because of that singer change.
Yeah, it's crazy. And they just keep going and going.
Yeah. A new album next month.
Yeah. So good on them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys started in 1968. 52 years.
Yeah, that is crazy. What year was that? 68?
68 was their debut album.
So they started when I was 1.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I thought I was old. You know?
I think they did 2 albums in 68. I might be wrong. But, back then you put out 2 albums a year for, that's just what you did.
That's what you did, yeah. And then as the 70s when the 70s bands came, then you got into the 3 albums a year.
Yeah. Especially if your name started with a K and ended with is.
Yeah. Yeah. We give those guys enough video time. If we could even go back.
I'm sure they will show up again on this show.
They will. You even go back to the early 80s. One of the first bands, we're talking 81, 82. I was probably 15 at the time and got right into Michael Shanker group. And Michael Shanker had this fellow named Gary Barden sing on the first 2 MSG albums. And by the second album, it was basically a super group. He had Chris Glenn on bass, he had Paul Raymond from UFO, and he had Cozy Powell and Gary Barden, super group. And then, of course, a year later, that whole band's basically dissolved except for the bass player and Shanker, and they got Graham Bonnet from Rainbow, and he sang on the record. And then the first show was a disaster as he was pretty polluted, and they kicked him out and brought Gary back. And then Gary did a record after Assault Attack called Rock Will Never Die. And right before they were to tour that, he was out. And they brought this guy in for, I think, the Japanese tour named Ray Kennedy. If you YouTube Rock My Nights Away live 1985 Japan, this Ray Kennedy, you got to see it. I mean, the guy's passed on, so he just had an interesting look, to say the least. He didn't really fit in with the rocker look, but his voice was okay. And then they went back to Gary, and then Gary left again, and then they got Robin McCauley. So, I mean, even right there, and I bought into that. Assault Attack with Graham Bonnet, I think, is Shanker's best record, but the Gary stuff was good too. But it was just like all these bands, it was just like getting crazy, So Whitesnake changes musical band members, other bands just change lead singers, So yeah. But
hey, Deke,
funny.
Uncle Meat just left a comment that's going to lead me into my next band.
Sure.
He says, how about Skid Row? I know nothing of anything without Bach, but that was 25 years ago? How many different singers? There must be some nasty blood. Okay, let's dive into this one.
Boom. Well, what was it? Sebastian they wouldn't do the Kiss dates in 96, which I think, like you said earlier today, started with the album previous, probably a year before that, with
Subhuman Race in 95.
Yeah.
And they had issues. Actually, you know what? Just to prepare for the show, I was reading up on Subhuman Race, and they had some problems in the studio. They were working with Bob Rock. It wasn't working out. The band was falling apart, but they were contractually obligated. They went out on tour. They were offered the opening position on the Kiss reunion tour, and I believe Bach wanted to do it, but Rachel didn't, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
And that's led to Sebastian Bach being permanently ejected from Skid Row with no reunion ever. They basically broke up at that point, but reunited in the 2000s with first Johnny Solinger, and then they deep sick him. Oh shit! What happened?
I'm still here, pal. I see ya.
Am I live? Am I live? Am I live? Hello, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. It died. It died. I don't know how, but it died. Ran out of power. And even though I've got it plugged directly into the computer, it is dead. I cannot continue with Deke without this. So I am sorry.
Damn, we were on a roll there. Yeah, Eric, I sound different because I don't have a microphone plugged in. I'm gonna have to call it a day because of the damn phone dying. Crap! What a crappy ending! What a crappy ending to the show. I'm sorry. I am really sorry. Sebastian Bach, Skid Row, they still won't work with each other. And I think if you follow Sebastian Bach on Twitter, you can understand why they won't work with each other again. It's not a it goes back to what I was saying about these guys being grown children. I truly believe that, and I don't believe that they really know how to behave like adults. I am sorry about this. My phone died. The battery is toast. I can't. I didn't expect that because I have it plugged directly in, but it is. I think it drained the power faster than it can charge. So my phone is dead. I cannot continue the show, and I apologize for that. I'll wind up here without Deke because I can't share the screen with Deke. So thank you for watching. Thank you for Deke. Thank you to Deke for hosting. I'm really sorry about this. When I started the show, the phone was only at 33% power, but I thought it'd be okay because it was plugged in. So I screwed that up. I am sorry. That was on me. But thank you for watching. I had a great time tonight, and it looks like it might be a good evening swim kind of weather. So whoever's watching, I don't know. I can't see anything. I can't see all those details right now. You can't see them on a laptop for some reason. Don't ask me why. But thank you for watching. I apologize for this shitty ending to the live stream, but I had a great time, and I hope you did too. I am going to end the video now. Ciao.